Good morning, Gerald. How you doing today?
I'm doing okay. I'm just a little disappointed every Wednesday.
Why is that?
Well, here on your planet you call Wednesdays hump day, and it just makes me think of how jealous I am of the cool humps that my friend a talking camel has.
They're talking camels on your planet. That is so interesting.
Yeah, he can also fly, but that's really why I'm jealous of him.
That is, I would love to meet this talking camel friend of yours, Gerald. Well, today we're going to meet somebody even cooler than a talking flying camel. We're going to hear about the story of when Jesus was actually born. And a lot of times we stay and we actually talk about this story on Christmas time. And we kind of wait in December. We have some cool songs about it. You guys might really like it, or some cool skits about it. But the story of Jesus' birth and his whole life is important to talk about all the time. Actually, Gerald, when do you guys celebrate Christmas? Do you guys do it in December like us?
No, we celebrate Christmas on our planet in March.
That's okay. Actually, Jesus might have been born in the spring. We don't really know for sure. And a lot of people believe he was born more in the springtime than in the winter like we celebrate it. But either way, the story of Jesus' birth is most clearly taught to us in the Gospel of Matthew chapter 1. I want to ask you guys to read Matthew chapter 1 with your mom and dad today. So Matthew actually is one of the Gospels, which the Gospels means the good news about Jesus. And these four books, the Gospels, are all books they're written by a guy named Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. And they're named according to the authors, actually. And they're really awesome ways that we can learn the whole story of Jesus. Some of them even start from his birth, but all of them go to his death and his resurrection. I want to encourage you guys, read a whole gospel on your own or with your mom and dad this summer. That would be such a great way to spend the summer. Well, anyway, in Matthew 1, we learn about how Jesus was born a special death, born a special birth, actually. You see, Jesus is the king of this nation we learned about, the nation of Israel. But he's actually also the king of the whole world. So, Gerald, how do you imagine he would be born?
I would guess a king of the whole world would be born in like a palace that's the size of the moon.
One might think that, but Jesus actually wasn't at all. Jesus, he was born in a manger. Some of the things we hear about in the story aren't really in the Bible, so only believe what the Bible tells us about that. But in Matthew 1, it shows us Jesus was born like mere animals in a dirty way, and he was given a special birth. You see, all of us, we've learned about how people disobeyed God and forget about God. We all do that because we're born what's called sinners. We disobey God. That means you disobey your parents. That might mean you lie. That might mean you hide things that you shouldn't hide. But Jesus, he was born special so that he was not born a sinner. And Jesus lived his whole life as recorded in these Gospels without ever sinning one time. That means he never disobeyed his mom and dad when he shouldn't have. That means he never took something that he shouldn't have. That means he never lied ever. And because of that, Jesus was the only one who didn't deserve punishment from God. We all deserve actually to be punished from God because God says, if you sin one time, you can't come into my special heaven. That's a place where we live forever with God. And said, if you sin one time, we deserve to go to hell. We should be punished by God forever, which is sad, right?
Yeah, that's super sad, but it's true because God is perfect and he needs perfect to be with him.
That's right, Gerald. Jesus lived this perfect life, but he didn't just stay away from doing bad things. We see in the Gospels how Jesus did good things constantly. He healed people. He taught about God, the most important thing ever. But he even taught about something that he was going to do. You see, Jesus around the time of life where I'm at, around the age that I am, he was actually arrested by some people for doing nothing wrong.
Well, why would they arrest him, Pastor Tony?
Yeah, that's a good question. Jesus was telling people that they couldn't get to heaven by being good enough. Which a lot of times that's what we think. We think if we are good enough people, we get to go to God. And some people thought, well, they're pretty good people and they should get to go to heaven. But Jesus said, even you can't get to heaven by being good enough. And so that made him pretty upset. So they decided to arrest Jesus. and they actually kill him by putting him on a cross. But there's more to this story, you see. Because Jesus wasn't just innocent there. He was a sinless man. He didn't deserve any punishment from God. But God and Jesus, they all chose us. The whole Trinity had planned this out from before the world began. And when Jesus was on the cross, he actually was taking the punishment that we deserve. You know how we said we deserve to be forever in hell? That punishment was put on Jesus that day on the cross when he died. God the Father actually turned his face away from him. He died into the punishment to take the punishment that we deserve. This would kind of be like if Gerald's camel friend chose to take a timeout in his place, if Gerald had deserved to have a timeout. And this all happened, by the way, in our time lab, where we have to go 2,000 years in the past to see all of this story. It's amazing truth. But we're going to see that Jesus didn't stay dead tomorrow. That's going to be our main focus tomorrow. But this good news of Jesus' death means that if we believe in him, if we believe that we disobey God, we're sinners. If we believe in the Trinity and how Jesus is the amazing God-man, the God that became a man when he was born of Mary. And if we believe that Jesus died to take the punishment that we deserve, we can live forever with God. We can enter into heaven because he took the punishment for us. And remember how he was perfect in obedience? He gives us that awesome obedience for us. Today's verse actually is one of the most famous, popular verses you guys might know of. It's John 3:16. For God so loved the world that he gave his only Son, that whoever believes in him should not perish but have eternal life. You guys might have memorized it already, but I want to ask you guys to absolutely memorize this verse. But don't just leave it there. Choose today, if you haven't yet, to believe in what Jesus did. And you also have to make him the Lord or the boss of your life. You can't live for yourself anymore if you want to accept Jesus. You have to decide today that you're going to live to serve Jesus. And it's not about doing good things to get into heaven. It's only Jesus that gets us there. I want to encourage you guys, if you know about this, and if you're believing this today, come talk to me. You can find me at Faith Family Church. We meet on Sunday mornings at 10 a.m. right now. Or you can even have your parents reach out to me. And if you guys go to a different church, you guys can talk to a church. If your church talks about Jesus, if they're all about Jesus, now you can only be saved through Jesus, I'm sure the pastors or some leaders there would be happy to talk to you about this good news. And maybe even if your mom and dad are really involved in church, you can talk to them about this. We want you guys to trust Jesus because that's the most important news ever. That changes all of time for the better, guys. I will look forward to seeing you tomorrow.